من فکری بەڕۆژی لە مانگی 4 دەست بە قۆناغی پێش وێنەگرتنی ئەم ئیشەمان کرد، ئەم کارەمان کرد. ئەستافێکی بیانیم هێنا بۆ ئیشە. ئەستافەکەم لە ئەمریکاوە هات. کاتێک ئەم گروپە گەیشت بۆ کوردستان، بێگومان سیستمی بەرهەمهێنانی فیلم لە هالیوود زۆر جیاوازە. ئەوەی بتوانێت ئێمە بیرەوەمان کردەوە کە سیستمێک دابنین چۆن یارمەتیدەری یەک بین، ینی لە یەک تێبگەین بۆ میشە. ئەوەی بڵێن کە پاش ڕوخانی ڕژیم لە چڕۆکێکی زۆر بەسیت یاخۆ بڵێن چڕۆکێکی زۆر سادە و ساکار کە لە بەگڕاوەندی خۆی شتی زۆر گەورەی لە پشتە، باز لەوە بکەین کە کێشەکانی پاش ڕوخانی ڕژێمی دیکتاتۆر بەرەو کوێ دەچێ. جیاوازی هەرێمی کوردستان بە نسبەت هەرێمەکانی تر تەنانەت وڵاتەکانی دراوسێ، هەبوونی سیستمی باش بۆ پارێزگاری و ئەم بابەتانە.
Action! Baghdad, Fallujah, or Mosul. Action! And action!
I am the sound mixer for the production The Lion's Den with producer Fakhri Beroji. And this is my first time to Kurdistan, really my first time in this region entirely. And it's been a real experience. But after being here and working here and living here with the production crew and everyone involved in the project, I can't say that anything would be further than the truth, further from the truth than that. The people here are very warm, very friendly. We started working and focusing on what was important to make the film work, and to make the two teams, the Kurdish team and the American team, to help us all work together. As you can imagine, there are a lot of things we had to overcome. We had language barriers in some cases, but it's amazing how much you can get across by waving your hands and smiling or frowning or throwing something. And so it took us about a week, maybe two, but we started to gel. And we had a great opportunity to film in an area here in Howler that is an ancient city. And so we had almost like a soundstage, like a backlot area, where we were able to be a little bit more secluded and create environments and control our environments. And that helped an awful lot. And the director, Fakhri, is very aware of sound. He's focused on sound, and sound's important to him. So I was able to communicate that to him, and we had a good, I feel we had a good rapport and had a good communication, so that I could let him know what things that I needed to do to give him the sound that he wanted.
I'm Kurt Braun. I'm the camera assistant / camera operator on Lion's Den. We put a lot of effort, Mario and I did, on the pre-production end coming into this in making sure that we came over here with what was necessary to do a good job. We weren't there. We ran into problems we did not expect. We tried to think about what problems we would come into, and frankly, the problems that we had were not ones we were expecting. We did not expect things like, hard drives overheating, that they would only operate up into 95-degree heat, that's Fahrenheit. Here we're dealing with 113 degrees Fahrenheit, 115 degrees Fahrenheit when we're out in the middle of this field that looks like, Kansas is the nearest thing I can relate to it. Fakhri has a certain style in mind for this film. And I was able to attune myself to that fairly well, okay? At least, I think so, because he didn't spend a lot of time yelling at me. So I think I was doing an okay job. I must have been, I hope. Fakhri has a very good knowledge of the camera, of the lenses, of the visual of film. And working with him, I've found a great appreciation for that. And I learned to, he'd say, put the camera here. And I'd sit down and he'd say, no, move over 1 foot or something like that. And it would make a world of difference. And all of a sudden it'd be like, I'd pick up the camera again and I'd say, okay, now I see what you're seeing. Back here.
No!
Except for, why is that now?
Yalla!
What the fuck?
You gotta put it in front of it.
أعزاب!
ماوەیەکی زۆر دوور درێژە کە تەنسیقمەیە لەگەڵ چەند کەسایەتی دەرەوە بە تایبەت ئەمریکا بۆەوەی ئێمە فیلمسازین بۆ ئێمە دەتوانین فیلم بکەین یارمەتیمان بدەن بۆ بڵاوکردنی فیلم. یەک لە شتە هەرە گرنگ بۆ فیلم و سینەما بڵاوکردنی فیلمە بۆ ناردنی فیلم بەردیدی بینەرە. بێگومان ئەگەر تۆ فیلمێک بکەی فیلمەکەت کواڵیتە و دەنگ ڕۆلی ئەکتەر لە ناو فیلمەکەت نەگاتە ئاستی خۆی ئەمانە زەربەر لێ دەدە بۆەوەی تۆ فیلمەکەت بچی بۆ بازار و بینەرێک بتوانێت سوودی لێوەربگرێ.
Here is that being as it's a new experience for a lot of people in this production, it's hard for them, for anybody really thrown into that, to kind of get their head around what's happening here. A lot of people think that making a movie is just sort of a bunch of people who are getting together, having fun and taking pictures of it. But it's really a very concentrated, specific job. Everybody in the crew has their job, and everybody needs to be doing their job and doing it well. And sometimes it's not that much fun. Typically we're working 10, 12, 14, 18 hours a day. We're tired, we're dirty, we're working with a lot of equipment and running around and doing things, and sometimes it's not that fun. And probably one of the bigger challenges for this production was keeping the people who were new to film production focused on what we were really doing here, and that's working to create a film. And it wasn't always fun. Probably the biggest difference is non-actors don't really know how to project and deliver their voice. They may not have had the opportunity to hear themselves on the camera, on mic. They don't really know. And then you put a camera in front of them, and all of a sudden, when you interviewed them for the part, they spoke to you in a large, robust voice and were very confident. But then when you put the camera in front of them, they get very small. And so it takes a little while to kind of get them out of their shell. I think Fakhri did a good job of that. It takes more patience to work in that environment. And with any talent, you always have to be really careful not to invade their space when they're getting ready, when they're preparing. But even more so with non-talent, because they're easily distracted. And so my challenge with those kind of actors is to make sure that the things that I have to do, maybe setting a lav or trying to get my microphone angles right, I do in a way that intimidates them as little as possible. Professional actors are used to that. Professional actors are used to having microphones stuck in their face. They're used to having people shuffle them around and say, walk to that little line. But it's a lot to remember for non-actors. And as you can imagine, some did better than others.
Action!
The post-production work is going to come in the United States. I do post-production sound work, and I know that some of the challenges that they're going to have. I think one of the things that I do when I do production sound is I focus on what we can get in production in terms of sound beyond just the dialogue, beyond just the basics. Fakhri was really good to work with in that regard, because whenever I needed ambient sound, whenever I needed wild sound, if I wanted some footsteps or I wanted some birds or I wanted to roll 5 minutes of room tone, I could get it. And that's the kind of stuff that's really going to help us in post-production. The second half of the learning curve that the entire crew and really the entire industry, I said, and I still feel the same way, that I think that this crew, the director and the producers and the people who are supporting them, have some real talent. And it's amazing to see what they've done with the resources that they have. And I think we're going into post-production with a lot of solid performances, some really good-looking footage, and I think some really good sound.
Mario Ortiz is a tremendous Steadicam operator, and we discussed the fact that we were going to be bringing the Steadicam over. And early on in the production, there was discussed this dolly shot that was going to happen, but that the rest of the film was supposed to be handheld. I most recently saw a film that was 80–90% handheld too.
I came into this production with that kind of background. I worked with Fakhri pretty closely on that, and we talked about a lot of the things that were going to be important in post-production, and I'm looking forward to seeing those things all come together. And it'll be fun for hopefully for he and I to look over some of that post-production stuff, and we can actually see, yeah, remember when we talked about this, remember when we talked about that, we talked about this, and actually see how it all lays together. But that's why it's really important to understand the whole process and to really be focused on getting good sound, and it's one of the things that makes it good sound. When we went out to an area, I think it's called the Massif, and it's sort of the foothills to the mountains, and we were doing a scene, basically a funeral scene. It was absolutely beautiful, and when you see the film, watch for this particular scene, because there was what I would call a grandfather tree, and this big beautiful tree on this hill, and they brought in some local Kurdish musicians, and they played some funeral songs.